What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Mint City Soccer Show. I'm one of your hosts, David Gustler. I'm here with Matt Swift and our producer extraordinaire, Corey Ensko, and we have a very special episode and a special guest once again with the show. So please help me in welcoming Zoran Krneta here to the Mint City Soccer Show. So Zoran, thanks for joining. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you for inviting me. I'm fine. I'm doing very well. Thank you, guys, and I'm happy to be again on a guest on your show.
Yeah. I think the last time you were here, you just came back from England. You were under the weather, just finished a summer transfer window. So I'm sure you're on a hot streak right now at the team. So I'm sure you're in a much better spirits and shape to be on the show this time, right?
Yeah, it's a very roller coaster business. When you win, you are high. When you lose, you're low. So yeah. That's it's just the beginning of the season. So we'll see what happens at the end.
Absolutely.
Well, the main reason why I wanted you on the show, there's really only one reason. I wanted to ask you this one question.
The looks, of course.
Yeah, well, besides the looks, we're kind of low on the looks department, so we had to bring in someone a little nicer than us. But the number one question: what does it feel like to be a TV/movie star now, sir?
TV/movie star. I mean, you're referring to naughty people from my social media department that putting me on Instagram and asking me.
We'll definitely get to that because that was absolutely amazing. I watched that like 10 times. But
they got me there. I mean, I didn't really realize what's going on until it was too late.
That was pretty fantastic. I gotta say, some of those were. I mean, I know them pretty well, but there was still you had some difficult ones, so I'll give you that.
Yeah. They did not set you up for success on a few of those.
I had someone in my office coming to me and saying my partner is very upset because she's big on Georgia Bulldogs and you called them Florida Bulldogs.
Well, you were a good sport at least. That was pretty good. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I think everybody else did too. But no, I am referring to your big screen debut about the documentary that MLS did.
Right. Okay. You're referring to that.
Yeah. I thought it went well. And for those that don't know, it's a new MLS documentary. You can find it on Apple, Onside. There's multiple episodes, but and two of them, they feature Charlotte FC and our guest, Zoran. I guess, what was it like having cameras following you around while the Marco Reus saga was unfolding in real time for you?
To be honest, it came with discussion early on about this whole idea of having this incredible insight behind the scenes, and we talked about it, and then we, the producers and the league and myself and a few other people as well on a call, and then we were like. I'm going to London. I'm going to see some of the protagonists. I'm going to see the agents. I'm going to watch the Champions League final. I'm going to, which Marco Reus participated, not very successfully again. And it's funny because I watched the 2013 Wembley Champions League final when they lost against Bayern. So I'm a bad luck. I'm a bad luck for Borussia Dortmund. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get invitation anytime soon for the third one. And then we luck up, and I have also I was a guest speaker at the Conference of Association of Sporting Directors, which I'm a member and on technical committee. So I said, why don't you guys following me and meet a lot of people in the process and see some of the discussions and and they were like, really, would you be okay? And I said, yeah, why not? I mean, do you want to behind the scenes? This is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And to be honest, they liked it. I didn't really. I have very limited experience with cameras. I really don't. I just try to kind of pretend the cameras are not around. But I have some incredibly funny stories. Honestly, the really funny stories. One of the funny stories that I'll tell you and share with you guys specifically, uniquely, especially for the collective here. So we go to London, and I'm telling them how the London cabbies, the taxi drivers, are so much into the soccer, and everyone is either West Ham or Chelsea or Arsenal or Tottenham, and they're swearing and they fighting and so I said to them, plan, I'll start them. Once I get into the cab, I'll start talking to them, and then you'll see that there'll be explosion, and I'll provoke them. I'll say, if they are Chelsea, I'll say something like, West Ham beat you always. So we make all this plan. We go into the cab, and there he is, probably the most mute of the mute cabbie drivers in a row. I mean, he's a Chelsea fan. Apparently, we managed after a few minutes kind of a conversation to get that out of him. And I told him, please take me to Stamford Bridge. And even then, he's not talking to me. He's not asking, are you going to Stamford Bridge? Like, it's like, it was incredible. We were commenting and so on. And then we stopped another one. And the other one was like a foreign, wasn't even the London cabbie. Yeah. And then all gone, and we're like a pity. There will be great footage. And then I was leaving London, and I'm going back to Charlotte. I jump into a cab, and there he is. There's our guy. There's a cabbie. There's a cabbie who apparently has son who lives in LA. Son-in-law lives in LA, watches LAFC games, regularly watches MLS, has opinion about every team. And I'm like, where were you 3 days ago? So that was a great little story about what we tried to. But I think it's a great attempt by both the league and the Major League Soccer and the Apple TV to kind of bring behind the scenes, bring the participants, protagonists into the homes of all the fans and everybody who is interested in the soccer in USA. So I think it's a great idea. I really hope there'll be continuation. That what you guys have seen, and I'm only talking about Charlotte FC and what Dean, myself, and Vesti and a lot of others done. It's just a very, very small tip of iceberg what we filmed. So there's a lot more material, and hopefully there'll be continuation.
Yeah, I figured they probably cut and edited a lot out just to fit it in, but they did cover the Marco Reus situation, and I think it was really good for fans to see what happens behind the scenes, because sometimes we can only assume or have theories about what happened. So it was good to see that in real time, and it's got to be a roller coaster ride. You think you've got your person, and you've been a player agent too, so you've been on the flip side of that. You think you've got your person, you're right there at the deadline, and then another team swoops in and they may prefer that location. Maybe their spouse might prefer a certain location, and that's all you could do. And that's it. And I had so many people message me about that. They're like, I really loved those episodes. I really, I liked Zoran. I like what he was doing. Like, I feel like you did everything you possibly could. And just to kind of see that roller coaster ride, I felt it too. And like, now I can't stand Marco Reus, but that's a whole other thing. There's
a lot more to the discussions that sure. Myself and Will Kunz from the Galaxy GM had, and the fights, and then there are a lot more fights behind the scenes. But the bottom line, at the end, when we realize that this Marco decision has been made, and we know where to change it, then we started the kind of a different exercise where basically how can we benefit out of the whole process, and then we set up a very high amount that we didn't want to move, and that took another probably good 3 weeks before we moved from the very high amount to a still very high amount, but a little bit less. So at the end of the day, I feel while Galaxy got their man, I think we got something out of it, and we got at the end of the day, we were happy because we were like, okay, fair enough. He doesn't want to come to us, and I said many times to you guys personally, to you, Matt, and maybe we talked, and we don't want anybody who doesn't want to be here. And if you look at our squad right now, everybody wants to be here. Wilfred Zaha wants to be in Charlotte. He said, I don't want to go anywhere else in Major League Soccer. The only place I want to be, it's a Charlotte FC. I know the people here. They made an effort to bring me. I know Dean Smith from England. This is the place for me. So this is what is very important for the place like Charlotte. To bring a superstars who don't really want to be here and then only want to paycheck. That's I don't think it's against how we build this roster and how we build this club.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree. We only want people that will bleed, black and blue for us. One of the big questions that came up about that whole process is the discovery rights and how kind of odd this process is. And I can't remember if we've discussed this before. As much as you can tell us, how does this work? How many players can each team have on their list? And how often is that reshuffled, or how long can you quote unquote hold on to a player's discovery rights?
Right. I'll try to very briefly explain to you. First of all, this is something that was set up probably 15, 20 years ago when MLS was not MLS of today. Mm-hmm. When on the market, there were maybe 10 agents operating, and those 10 agents would often offer the same players. So the clubs wanted to protect themselves against actually bidding against each other. So that was the idea. So they started with the 7 players. You can put 7 players on discovery list. Now it's 5. They moved down. Last year we moved down to 5. There are even potentially discussions about moving to 3. I personally think that we are now at the stage where we don't need a discovery list. Mm-hmm. That's now in operation. There are thousands of agents in Major League Soccer. And Major League Soccer is one of the most attractive leagues in the world. So every agent wants to be part of that Major League Soccer. The super agents, the George Mendeshes of this world, and also small agents. Everyone wants to be part of this market. But how does it work? For example, you kind of discover the player. So obviously, in a case of Marco Reus, I didn't discover him. I just had information that he has interest in MLS, and I looked at him and said, okay, well, that can be interesting for us. And then we discussed internally and said, okay, let's put him in. So we put Marco Reus in, and then Galaxy came and offered us, started a discovery process resolution, which you place a $50,000 into escrow, and basically I have 4 days to decide whether I'm going to accept this 50,000 or I will try to sign the players myself. So we waited for 3.5 days or 3 days and, 23 hours. And then we send an email back saying, no, we're not accepting it. We want to sign Marco Reus. And then once that happened, then you have to send a realistic offer. That means the offer has to be, in case of the relevant player, realistic in terms of for Marco, he's a free agent. You can't offer him $500,000 gross. That's not realistic. But sure. If you start with millions, then that potentially becomes a realistic offer. So we made an offer. Now, once that offer is made, then we are in a sole position to kind of try to finish the deal. And then in the meantime, behind the scenes, the Galaxy. And there was another club interested in a Marco as well from the Major League Soccer. They tried to kind of work with us. They had to negotiate with us if he will allow them to move forward. Mm. So you're doing parallelly. You're negotiating with the agent and the player, but you're negotiating with the clubs. Just a case that happens that we experience that Marco doesn't want to come or any player doesn't want to come, and then you have to kind of try to extract as much money as possible. So that's your kind of satisfaction at the end of the day.
How long can you keep a player on that list? Is it just every year have to refresh, or is it every 2 years?
No, you can keep the player forever as you for as long as you like.
So hypothetically, we'll just say, you could know that there's another team, maybe a competitor that really wants this player, but you can know that and know that you're not going to get him, but you could keep him because then you'll get free money because that's kind of smart, like a smart move.
Correct. We made $800,000 on 2 players, Almiron and it's probably one of the records, or very close to MLS records.
I was saying hypothetically, but that's basically what I meant.
So yes, you're right. You can do that. You can do that. Potentially, I think there are certain players are excluded. Like if you want to put Modric on a DL, or if you want to put Mbappe, if you put Ronaldo, then the league will intervene and say, well, hold on a second, Modric doesn't want to go to a Charlotte. He wants to go to Miami, and therefore you have to move on. And and you can't really discover Modric. I mean, that's not really even realistic. Yeah. So there are exceptions to this rule, but those are the elite players.
Okay.
So I think the rule is okay in a sense that protects the clubs a little bit against competing against each other. What can happen, what I potentially don't like the rule, is that the very smart club can actually keep the player on the discovery list even if you want to sign him, and they can't until they get the money they want for 3 months, almost until the end of the window.
Interesting.
And so we discussed about this rule many times, and potentially we would look, going forward with all these meetings, we'd look to maybe modify it and make it a little bit quicker, faster. When you start this whole process and you can't sign the player for whatever reason, then you have to negotiate quicker rather than slower. This is what I think we need to do it. Not necessarily totally cancel the rule, but maybe just modify to kind of be more kind of ready for this fast modern era of the MLS and trading and selling and buying players.
All right. Yeah, thank you for that. I want to know that for myself. I find it very curious how that all works, and I know we got a lot of messages and comments around it. So thanks for kind of clarifying that. All right, David, take it away, sir.
So Zoran, obviously starting off with a hot streak of the season, I think probably one of the best starts in this club's short history, right? And currently sitting, I think, second in the East, which is a great feeling. But how do you feel about the start of the season so far for the club and the team in general?
Look, it's a great season for us. It's a great start. The boys are confident. I still have a sore kind of the whole Miami saga and Miami game was. I think it will take some time. I was talking to the owner, Mr. Tepper, at the halftime of our game, and he looked at me saying, "I feel even more sorry now about Miami." I said, "Don't you dare to go there." I mean, it's look, this team is growing. You can see they're growing. They're growing as a unit, as a team, as a players playing for each other. We also have a good depth to the roster. So you saw that in a game against Salt Lake City, but I'm seeing that in a training, and so is Dean. I think Dean has done a phenomenal job with getting the group together, uniting them, fitting everyone where they should be in all the pieces. It's no surprise to me that our midfielders can score. I know that our strikers, forwards, wingers can score. It just, we are still unknown side to the most of the MLS. They know us last year from a very good defense, but not really prolific attack. Mm-hmm. I think this year they'll see the different side of the same defense, but they will be more prolific, attacking. So I think they'll be more entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and the scoring's coming from all over the field too. It's not just one player, which is nice in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you even had, I don't know if you saw this online or not, but Walker Zimmerman was on MLS kind of talking about teams that he's not looking forward to playing. And he mentioned Charlotte as a team that is a dangerous team. And as a defender and a center back, he's probably not looking forward to going up against Patrick and Abada and Zaha and Pep Biel now looking ahead.
Yeah, we played them in our first game of the preseason with very heavy legs. It was 0-0, but I also liked how organized they were in comparison to the potentially a previous year. So I think they'll be a decent team this year as well. But I honestly think that I was talking to someone, one of my consultant scouts this morning, and I said, well, where is the weak point for us right now? And he was like, well, I don't see one. I mean, weak, when I say weak, what do we need to change right now? What do we need to bring in? Like, is your left wing? Well, we have a Zaha and potentially Yuri Tavares, who unfortunately is not getting much minutes, but he's a super talented boy. Then we have a Patrick Agyemang and we have Toklomati, who is seriously knocking on his door.
Big Toklomati fan right here, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Toklomati is a special boy. For me, I went after the game and I said to him, and I pulled him aside, I said, you know what? Because before the game, I told him, look, don't think about scoring goal, because I know that as a young striker, you think if I don't score a goal. I said, don't think about scoring goal. Just play. If you play well, that's the same as you score a goal. So after the game, I went to him and says, look, for me, you're man of the match. I know that Pep done amazing. But for me, knowing what you've gone through, the first start ever in your career for Charlotte FC, and I think he's done a brilliant job. But to be honest, he's done brilliantly in the preseason. He's done brilliantly in training, and he's done brilliantly every time he came on.
Yeah, every single game, he's been very good.
He's changing the narrative of every time the game we come on. And then you have on the right, you have Abada and Vargas, and then potentially Tiger Smalls, and then you have the midfield that we still can't get some minutes for. I mean, Nikola Petkovic, who is a very talented young midfielder. Jibril Diani, incredibly talented in several roles he can play. Eric Williamson can't get minutes, right now, not much. So, I mean, I don't even go back at the back six, because they are one of the best in the league. So.
Yeah. So you mentioned it a little bit just this past game. So obviously riding high after that 4-1 game against San Jose. I know you said confidence was something, and just everyone getting into a groove was something that you've already noticed. But was there anything else that stood out to you in that game that you were just really happy about as well?
Well, obviously the way the three boys who came and replaced the three starters played, it was like, okay, this is our chance. We're going to grab it, and this is what Dean wants. This Dean mantra is basically this: when you came on as a sub, I'm not putting you as a sub just for the sake of being a sub. I'm putting you to make a difference on a pitch. And every time you make a difference, you're coming closer to starting in the first 11. Every time you don't make a difference, you're one step back. And I think all three put a really strong case for all of them to play. I mean, Suleiman Doumbia literally arrived 12:30 in the morning, and he's fasting for Ramadan, and he played the 90 minutes. And you think, wow, I mean,
that's insane,
incredible.
Yeah, you guys played that very close to the chest too. Like that was not information that was out. Because I was scratching my head, and we did coffee and soccer Saturday morning. We do that every Saturday morning. We talk about the game ahead, and we were talking about potential starting lineups, and we were racking our brain because the last person in the world I thought would be out there was our new guy. But sure enough, flew in at midnight and got him in there. So that was pretty sneaky, because I think even Dean was saying like, nah, it's probably not going to happen, but it did.
Yeah, to be honest, Dean was brave in the sense that he spoke to Suleiman and asked him and said, look, how do you feel? Yeah. And Suleiman is a 28 years old, very experienced left back. He's not going to say I'm ready and make a fool of himself. Yeah, and he basically said he looked great. He played the 45 minutes as in a behind the doors friendly that we played last week. He trained with the boys, and he scoring that goal as well. In that game, he scored a goal as well. So it's attacking wise, he's really bringing us something we didn't have before. With Tim Ream, we had defensive strength, but going forward, we lacked a help to our left side of the midfield and attack. So I think this now would be additional threat.
So you were talking about Dean a little bit ago, but obviously big news pretty recently was that he gets an extension until 2027. So what is it that you like about Dean so much, other than obviously results? Because last year was a good season, starting the season off this well. Like, what do you like working with him, and what do you like having him around the club for?
He's a very, first of all, he's a great guy to be around. I mean, he's a pleasure working with him. It's pleasure also having a glass of wine with him, or it's pleasure talking to him, chatting about everything else, golf or horse racing or the soccer or the life in general, But I think he came in with open mind and open heart. He didn't judge anything or anybody. He didn't come in and says, "Oh, where are my DPs? Where is my?" If you remember, we started the last season without any of the DPs.
Right.
One was sold to Granada. One was loaned to Verona, actually, not Chievo. And then we didn't have a third one. And then Abada came in April, slightly injured, so it took him some time before he got on board fully fit. And Dean, at no point, didn't actually complain. And he literally said to me, let me have a look what you guys have here, because I think from what I watched on the videos and stuff, that you have some interesting young players. Let me see what I can do with them. And he keeps saying to the coaches around him, saying, it's our job to make players better. It's not our job is not to bring 11 best players in the world, and I'm a coach and I put them in 11 places, and I'm coaching them. That's not my job. My job is to bring the best and create the best players by helping them to become a really good players. And I think he's done that. If you look at some of the players, and look, the best example in the world is the year before, exactly the 6 players who become the best Eastern Conference defense were the worst Eastern Conference defense.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, right?
and the only thing that changed was a coach.
Yeah.
So it's
it's well documented on this show, Zoran, and you've been on a few times, and we've talked about this quite a bit, the coaching situation here at the club. So it's got to feel really, really good, and probably a big vote of confidence for Dean to get that extension. When I saw that, I felt kind of like this weight off, because it's no secret that I really didn't like the previous 2 managers, but I do like Dean, and it's good to kind of put that investment into the club and extend that kind of early on, right? Because he's got a season, and we just started this one, but I think the foundation is there. So I'm sure it's a big weight off your shoulders to finally have that flag in place, and you can go forward now.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to hide away. We made some mistakes. It's the in the case of a couple of coaches before, they either changed their way of playing, or they were simply not fit enough for the expansion club. Expansion club is a very unique animal, if you like. It's not like a club that exists, that has a history, tradition, a fan base, the players, the academy, that everything else is. So you can go in and be kind of, all right, let me see what is here. You need to kind of accept for the face value. I'm expansion club. Let me try to do the best I can to help the team grow and get better, and then help the fans like the team, how we play, and everything else. So this is not the place for the people who think about themselves first. It's about coaches who think about the team first, and the city first, and the fans first. And I think this is the major and main difference between a Dean and the previous coaches that we have.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're all big fans, and we agree here for sure. So I'll hand it back to you, Swift. There.
Yeah, one player that I really want to get your take on, because I feel like you might feel a little vindicated with this one. And that's Pep Biel. He's off to a great start. How pleased are you with him? Do you feel a little vindicated with bringing him on last year? There was talk about Miguel Almiron, and I gotta say we got the better deal on that as well too. But his loan does run out in August, which is a problem because we're going to be playing until December 7th. So is this more kind of like
not until if you win the supporter shield by August?
Okay.
Hey, there you go. Right.
There you go. That's true. Okay, that's a good way to look at it. His loan is up in August though, so that does pose a little bit of a problem. And I know that's a little far out. Any thoughts there? Is it more of like a wait and see till the summer and kind of see where we are at that point? Because you did mention, you're talking to your scout. Where's the weak point? What do you actually need? But Pep Biel, first, I want to ask, how do you feel about his play? Do you feel pretty good about your decision? Do you feel vindicated? And are there any plans for him in the future?
Look, every player that arrives, we try to kind of multiple times double check, triple check if it's the player for us. So it was well documented. Pep Biel was on a short list. I have it in my office. I think he was actually even documented on a Onside series.
Yeah, we did have a couple of people pause the screen to look at what was on your whiteboard.
And one of the players on that list was Pep Biel. So it wasn't like he arrived from the moon and just landed and nobody knew who he is. But we had a number one choice that sadly we couldn't get. And Pep was pretty much the option 2, 3. And once we start having issues with option 2, that are also well documented, that the Pep immediately, we just closed the Pep. And there was a loan because we wanted to see how he will react. Because again, bringing someone from Europe you need to see how someone would react on a MLS, on a life in a United States, on a food, on a water, on a Charlotte is, lovely, beautiful city. I love it. My family and I love it here. We've been here for 5 years now, but some people might love it less. So it's all contributes to the best team. If you is when you have a happy 11s and then happy substitutes who come in and be happy to play. So we wanted to double check who Pep really is. And then he came straight from a preseason with Olympiacos. He didn't really play any games. So he came to us when we are in the middle of towards the end of our season. He came on, it took him some time. He got a little knock and small knee injury that he played with.
Yeah.
And then he played on the right wing at that time. So I always thought that his best position is the middle, and this is why we brought him. But in discussion with Dean, we were like, okay, well, he wanted to try him on a wing, and I said, okay, he can definitely play on a wing. He played in Augsburg on a wing, he played in Copenhagen in a wing, and played in Olympiacos on a wing, a lot of games. So we thought we like him a lot, and he liked Charlotte and us and Major League Soccer a lot. So it was like kind of, we didn't want to go the route of a DP, but it took a lot of effort, a lot of trips, a lot of persuasion for the owner of Nottingham Forest and Olympiacos to allow him to come back to us again on a loan until 1st of August. And now he had a bit of a knee injury, so he missed part of the preseason. And now you can see that he's getting fit. The more he is fit, the better he will be, I think. And obviously the confidence and he likes the boys. He gets on well with everyone. Nice. Everyone likes him. So you can see that this group mentality and linking between the players is really strong.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen so far this season. He seems like he's a lot sharper, and the way he's been playing balls coming through the middle has just been fantastic. So it's been good.
You asked me something very, very important. Am I vindicated? No, I'm not vindicated, because I honestly, sincerely believe that every player needs time, no matter who he is. Wilfred Zaha needs time. Don't tell me, nobody can tell me that Wilfred Zaha is not good enough player. He's probably one of the best right now in Major League Soccer. But he needs time. He just came on, he didn't play, he went 5 days to London, come back, had a flu, stayed in a bed on Thursday, trained 1 hour on a Friday, played 90 minutes on Saturday. So we're not seeing probably 50% of Wilfred Zaha. But that's what I'm saying. It takes time. And this is a long league. So I'm not worrying about when the players don't immediately shy and, scores 3 goals every game for 3 games. That's maybe old MLS with how old it is. When you bring Beckham and Ibrahimovic into the average team, average league, then of course they are like but now the MLS is much better. So now you bring those kind of guys, it takes time,
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, there's always things behind the scenes that us fans don't know about, like a sickness or something personal in their life that happens where maybe they didn't get to train as much, or someone flies in at midnight and then they're fasting and then they play the next day. No one knew that until
we're trying not to say this because we don't want our opposition to know. That's the bottom line. We don't want them to kind of target that player specifically because he might be tired or anything else. So, we're keeping it very close to our chest.
Yeah, no, that's a good plan. It definitely caught a lot of people off guard, and me being one of them, because I looked at the starting 11, I was like, oh, okay, he's here. And he's not only is he here, he's starting. So definitely caught me off guard. And I usually have some sense of like what the starting 11 is going to be. So let me shift gears to the back line for a second. And I'm sure you probably know which position I'm going to refer to. The left back position has certainly stirred debate. Tim Ream has played really, really well. I wasn't on the show, but David, I can't remember if you and Chantry talked about this. I was saying since
I made sure to share that for you.
Yeah. So we got rid of Yeri, who was my guy. So I was a little heartbroken there, but I understand. And then you have Yao Pedro on loan. We moved Tim Ream to left back against New New England. Since then, if you don't count the playoff series against Orlando, we've lost one time, and that is against Miami. I know Tim doesn't naturally play left back, but something good has been happening there. But a lot of people are kind of hot and cold on Tim Ream. Now we have a new player in. What about that particular position are you and Dean looking for? No, we don't have to talk about specific players per se, but what do you need out of that left back, or what is Dean looking for in that position? And maybe what can we see going forward? I know this next game kind of sorts itself out with the red card, but going forward, it's going to be a tricky decision for Dean.
Yeah, but I think we also have was it Gold Cup in the summer?
Yeah.
When the team would leave for a period of time. What if anybody gets injured? We it's not like we have another option that is not as good, but so therefore at least have someone to step in. Dean wants to have a left-footed player in that position. And so we went and buy the one that we think is really, really good in his position. Then ball is in Dean court, really. I done my job. I don't think he would be upset with me saying this, because he wants to have options, and he has an option now. And I'm pretty sure that there will be games when he looked at our squad and says, well, I'd want Tim Ream to play left back. Or there might be a game when he says, look, I want a Tim Ream up and Andrew Privet to play left central defender. I want a Dumby up to play left back, because tactically this makes more sense.
That's actually a good point. And we've brought this up on the show a couple times. We very rarely are we in or have been in a situation where we have the proper personnel to switch formations depending on who our opponent is. So that's a good way to look at it, as now we're a little more versatile, I think. And again, like against who we're playing, we can pivot around and move pieces. So yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
You've also got Open Cup, Leagues Cup, and
Correct.
MLS,
Yeah.
regular season all being congested here over the next 90 to 120 days, right? So it does give you that option, those depth pieces to kind of help support that, right?
In May alone, we have 7 games.
Yeah.
That's not counting US Open Cup.
Oof.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So that's 8 games in 30 days. That's like every 3.5 days we play the game.
Well, good thing we got a new left back to help out with us. That's right. So.
Yeah. And so far, I can't believe I can't believe he got in at midnight. Like, he did not seem like he was fresh off the plane and fasting too. That's gotta be difficult too. I mean, he played great.
Yep. So, Zoran, I have to ask, and you mentioned him a little bit earlier, but what's your thoughts on Zaha so far? So I know it's a very short entry point of the season, big name player, big personality, right? So what's your overall impression and I guess thoughts on Zaha's tenure with MLS so far?
I am very impressed how he settled here with the boys, because there's always this kind of fear how the new superstar would fit with the group. That's gone really, really well. I'm really impressed by him. He's actually a very, very nice man. He works very hard. He's a model professional. So no issues there. He wants to win every single game. So every time you see him moody on a field, on a pitch, is because of he's not happy with himself rather than so much with his own game. Honestly, he just wants to play well, score goals and assists. He's an ultimate winner. He settled now. Obviously, it wasn't easy for him. His wife was just about to give birth, so he had to flew. Literally, he flew after the was the Atlanta game. No, he came just before the Atlanta game again on Thursday. I think trained on Friday, played the game 90 minutes, then stayed here for a week, then went to Miami. He was fouled numerous times. I mean, it was a little bit embarrassing how often they don't even call the foul. And there is a rule that if you're fouled 4 times, the 5th time is a yellow card, even if it's a silly little fouls. And the referee
The targeting thing, which is bizarre to me. But
and it's so far, I think he's probably second most fouled player in the league already, and he hardly played. He missed the whole game. So I think that he will settle into the MLS. He needs to learn a little bit about the league and how we play. All that takes a little bit of time, but his ability is frightening, absolutely frightening.
Yeah, we haven't seen full Zaha yet, and I've told everybody, I was like, buckle up, because he's gonna say things that's gonna raise some eyebrows, and he's gonna demand things. Like when he's on the field, Thierry Henry used to do that too. Like he would point and yell and demand the ball and demand it a certain way. And it's not to be mean; it is to raise the standards of everybody. He's at a certain level, and he wants everybody to get there. So sometimes that frustration will come out, but I think it comes from a good place. And I've said on this show before, he's going to get fouled a lot, and other opposing fans and teams are absolutely going to hate his guts, and I am so ready for it. We haven't really had a player that just like drives people nuts, and I'm going to love every second of it. So I've always been a big Zaha fan, and so I'm so excited that he's here.
Yeah, it's I asked the Crystal Palace captain who played with him for 5-6 seasons. I called him before we done the full deal. I said, tell me a little bit more about Zaha. What is his biggest strength? He said to me, are you kidding me? He said his biggest strength, at the 75th minute, when we all have that in Premier League, he looks like he just stepped on the pitch, number one. Yeah. And number two, he takes one-on-one players, 1, 2, 3 players, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then he said, you guys will have probably 6 to 7 penalties on him, minimum.
Yeah.
He said it's just impossible to stop him. When he's focused and when he's fit, it's very difficult to stop him.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's going to give players.
Every time he takes one-on-one, most of the time. I already felt that the fullbacks, like DeAndre Yedlin, didn't do anything going forward because he was scared.
That's we talked about it, and that like in our pregame stuff, like teams like that have these players that usually bomb forward. If you pin them back, they can't do anything because they rely on someone like Yedlin and his speed and service into the box and stuff like that. But if you're pinned back, I mean you're on the back foot the whole time. So I love that we have a player that's that dynamic, and we have great players on this team. Don't get me wrong, but Zaha is just a different type of player. Like again, one of the first things he said here was, "I want to win man of the match every match," and I'm like, yes, this is what we need, right? We need some swagger on this team. So I've enjoyed it so far.
I'm going to have to look up this stat for MLS. But before the last game, I was talking to a friend of mine, Thomas, and he was saying, like, yeah, that Zaha was the most fouled player ever in the English Premier League. And I think I looked up 821 fouls drawn in his time in the Premier League. And I got to say, I'm like, okay, I got to wonder what the MLS record is. And if will Zaha break in a single season, how many fouls he can get against him. Because, he, like you said, he's just a different level player to be able to do this. So I'm excited to see him come on the pitch more. He
gets under people's skin, which draws dumb fouls, right? And gets us in good positions for free kicks and penalty kicks and things like that.
Yeah. So Zoran, I have to ask about this guy a little bit because he's made some national team appearances a little bit. But what's your thoughts on Pat's performance getting called up to the U.S. men's national team?
Well, I think honestly, I mean, nobody is as happy as Dean, myself, and the rest of the team when Pat was called. We played a small role in that. I know Matt Crocker from England, and he came a couple of times. So I called him in October and I said, look, there is a player in our team that US men's national team doesn't have that profile. I'm not saying he's ready. I'm saying he's very raw, which he still is. But he's a very, very interesting profile, and you guys should have a look at him. And then obviously comes January, they asked me if I would release him, and I said, yes, I will. I want to help US men's national team to be as good as possible. I would cheer for US men's national team in a World Cup as long as they don't play Serbian national team. Then then I'm switching allegiance. But Pat worked very hard, and from the moment when José Tavares asked him, "Do you want me to make you fly? Do you want to fly?" At the combine in a rally 2 years ago, look where he is now. I mean, it's incredible, almost incredible. It's that this kid managed to get to that point. He needs to be very careful going forward for this fame and not to go too much into him. I keep telling him all the time, he works hard. He's still very much work in progress. There's a lot of parts of his game that he needs to improve. He's working on that. I think Dean is working on him. He's lucky to have someone like Dean Smith because he fits the Dean profile very much of the ideal, like a Ollie Watkins type of player that goes behind the strikers. So I think honestly, it's incredible moment for the club that we have 2 US men national team players in Charlotte FC in a year 4. I mean, it's incredible. I think the fans should be happy that we're supporting US men national team, and we have 2 very important members, captain and someone who scores the goals.
Yeah, I'm curious about something, and sorry if we're going to derail here a little bit. I'm very interested in kind of like the national team and club dynamic. You were a player, a player agent. Did you ever have a player that the national team coach kind of came to that player and be like, "Hey, if you want to play on the national team, I need you to move to this team, or I need you to move to this league"? Did you ever have those conversations? Is that something that ever come up? Because I've heard, like U.S. men's national team in general, like that's been brought up by former coaches in the past, which I don't like. But have you ever had to have those conversations with coaches?
I tell you now, in 17, 18 years as being an agent, never. What I had, the national team coach is telling players, if you don't play, I can't play you. I'm not where you play. So, and I think it's a myth, or it's a excuse of some coaches not to call the players from MLS because they're in MLS. It's a lot of rubbish, in my opinion. There are very good players in MLS, very, very good players. So there are absolutely no excuse to bring someone from a small team in Belgium, thinking that because he's in a small team. I'm just giving Belgium as an example, but I'm not meaning Belgium. Small team in Holland, Belgium, whatever. Of course, if you're in Chelsea, you ought to be playing in a national team because you should be good enough, or Juventus or similar. But what I'm saying, it's every player in Europe doesn't mean that they're better than every player here. As a matter of fact, I would challenge most of the teams in certain leagues in Europe to beat MLS teams. I don't think they would.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor, Manscaped.
All right, folks, get ready for the ultimate grooming showdown. Manscaped is bringing its starting 5 to take your game to the next level. The chaos of March is here, and you better be ready to dominate, whether you're throwing down on the court or throwing down a reality check on Steve from accounting after he airballs another presentation.
I hate Steve.
Steve, that damn Steve. So either way, this lineup has you covered from head to toe. So stay sharp and feel sharper with Manscaped all season long. So team, this lineup is built for winners, so don't let your grooming game get benched. Head over to manscaped.com, and I always chuckle at this so much, but use our code CORNDOG for 20% off plus free shipping, and get ready to score big with Manscaped. So Corey,
yes,
over to you.
Let's talk about this lineup, shall we? We need to have like the Chicago Bulls like starting lineup music behind me. We'll definitely get sued if we do that. I won't do that this time. But like, all right, at point guard, standing 6'3". Yeah, no. Our point guard is the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra.
Yeah,
it's the ultimate floor general, delivering smooth moves like a perfect assist.
Man.
At shooting guard, the Chairman Plus. It's slick, it's dynamic, provides a face shave as smooth as a no-look pass. Now, I would say that the no-look pass would probably from the point guard, but, we're not going to split hairs here. Basketball has become kind of a no-position game these days.
Just trim them.
We should just trim them. There it is. I'm not going to continue my thought because that was perfect. Small forward, the handyman. Compact and clutch. Your quick, precise playmaker for those critical moments.
What is he
If
clutching?
you're a basketball player, do you want to be called compact?
No.
I feel like that's not a compliment. Like when a running back's compact, they're like one of those like little
Short,
like
squat
small,
dude.
yeah, like a linebacker, but like if I'm a small forward playing basketball, then you call me compact.
Unless you're Muggsy Bogues, you don't want to be known as compact.
Right.
Clutch.
Power forward, the beard hedger. Big beards. Sorry, I gotta start that again. Big beards need big time power. This beast crushes even the toughest stubble with adjustable precision.
Wow.
And at center, the position that North Carolina did not have all season, and it showed badly on the court and made them lose in the first round. You need a good center, the Dome Shaver Plus. Dominating the paint and keeping your scalp so smooth, you'll never get dunked on by stray hairs.
Yeah. I think
Matt, how do you feel about that starting lineup?
I think the moral of the story here is don't be a freaking loser and shave your beard and head and pubes because you don't want to get picked last for the basketball team. That's what I got out of that.
Don't be like Steve.
Don't
Dude,
be
Steve is the
McCown.
worst. Steve sucks so hard. Steve looks like a Yeti, smells like a Yeti, has like all these pubes everywhere. It's gross. No one likes Steve.
And if you're Steve listening to the show, we love you, but not the Steve from accounting.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. Not you, Steve. The other Steve.
Yeah, not that.
We like you, Steve.
So what we need you to be is the all-star of your grooming routine with Manscaped's full power shave portfolio. So head to manscaped.com and again, use our corn dog code for 20% off plus free shipping. Or if you need it today, you can find Manscaped at a store near you. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I've seen it at Target, but don't miss this opportunity. Your face and your balls will thank you.
Yeah, don't be a loser.
So you mentioned him earlier, but Toklamati, anything else you want to kind of highlight with him as a I don't want to say super sub, but a guy that's come in. I mean, he caused an impact with a quote unquote own goal against Seattle. The last game, I know he didn't score, but on the Ashley Westwood goal, like that was because he was able to press and create almost like a turnover back there on that side of the field. What's your thoughts on Toklamati's performance so far?
Against Miami, he should have scored.
Yeah, he hit the post against.
So it's almost Well, look, when he first came again, he came late in the summer last year, young, 19 years old, already had the 4 cups for Israel national team. Played for has been part of the Olympic team, so he's gone to Olympics with Obada. And we knew of him for a long time, and we thought we had to take a risk earlier, because if you wait for longer, then he would go to Europe, because there will be a bigger and wealthier European teams that would attract him. So we kind of reacted very early. We got him in. We knew that he needs some time, so we put him through the Crown Legacy, which I think it's a great mechanism for us to bring young, talented players and give them time to adapt to America, to learn English, to adapt to our training camp, to see other boys, occasionally train with the first team, play the regular games. Because right now, if I bring a under 22 initiative player, which position he takes, who goes out, so that's what I'm saying. But we like those kind of players. We like under 22 initiative players. We were criticized a lot by some of the commentators or the writers that about under 22s that are failure. And I'm like, okay, well, Malanda is under 22, that we brought him down. Kevin Vargas is under 22. Yeah. Now we have a Toklamati under 22. Nikola Petkovic is under 22. Yeah, he's not playing, but unfortunately we have such a good midfield who score goals.
Yeah.
So it's but these are our under 22. I wouldn't say that any of them is failure.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, and I want to kind of jump ahead, David. I know we have some listener questions, but one of the questions is directly about Crown Legacy and kind of this situation. So Russell Varner was asking about Crown Legacy and saying, what are your plans for Crown Legacy now? Will the team continue to build a mix of academy and international players, or will they begin to focus on one or the other? And I guess my follow up there, you mentioned Pekovic, and there really being no place for him to get in, because we're in our first 2 years, it was a lot easier for our younger players to find time. But now we've built this roster. It's difficult for someone, especially like him, in the midfield, because we do have such depth. But going back to Russell's question, how do you see Crown Legacy now? Is it the same as it was when you first started this? What do you see it going forward? Is it going to be kind of the same, or are you kind of switching gears with that now?
Well, we brought a very young, not very young. We actually brought a young and a very good, promising coach, Gary Dickers from Brighton, under 23. We thought Brighton was one of the smartest clubs in the past 10 years in the world, and brought some really exciting young talents and sold them for a huge amount of money. So we wanted someone who knows how to work with the young talents. So that's part of the reason why Gary was hired. But also we will continue pushing the academy players as much as we can. But every now and then, when we come across a really exceptional talent, someone that we think, wow, this is really interesting player, we would, with a huge help from the ownership and a backing, we would discuss and say, well, can we invest $1 million or $2 million and put that player into Crown Legacy for a season, half season, 18 months, depending on how long anybody takes.
Yeah.
And then once the player is ready and when the team is ready for the player, then we put him into the first team. So we'll continue doing that. We'll continue trying to kind of outsmart the market, if you like, because for us, we need to bring those players early. We just finalized a very exciting left-footed Nigerian winger that you guys have heard of and know, and excites us all. And to be honest, he already played the 20 games in top league in Slovakia. So by all accounts, he should be ready for the first team, but he doesn't have a space right now.
Yeah.
Where do we put him? I mean, instead of Zaha, instead of Cavada, instead of Vargas. So you see what I mean? So we want to be smart operators. We want to kind of go in, okay, this kid is the future. He needs to learn better English. He needs to get a social security number, get a driving license, start driving around, traveling with a Crown Legacy, which is a little bit more challenging than traveling with the first team. So let him go through all that. Let him get through. We brought a really interesting young defensive midfield, 19 years old, just turned 19, by Koulibaly. He was phenomenal through the preseason. Everyone loved him. Dean loved him. The kid is covering more ground than anybody else I've ever seen. It's even Ashley Westwood was like not covering as much ground as this kid. So this is all the future. So I think the Crown Legacy is a perfect mechanism for us to kind of build into a club that is competitive, that brings the academy players, that produce the local talents, but also bring some foreign players that can add to the first team later on.
What kind of conversation do you have with someone like, we'll use Pekovic again. What kind of conversations do you have with him? Because he has to be, I know he wants to play, but he's got to be patient and develop. And I know he had some injuries too, kind of early on. But what is that like to talk to someone like that? And just, are you telling him to be patient? Are you telling him to just keep fighting? What does that look like?
Well, look, in his particular case, he had discussions with me and the dean several times. He was probably a little bit unlucky that he didn't get the chance, maybe as some others, but simply because the team is playing well and that position's covered well. And but also I think he needs to play. And so, for example, he asked a few days ago, he asked to play for Crown Legacy tomorrow. So he'll be playing a full 90 minutes for Crown Legacy tomorrow, and then we'll travel with the first team on Friday.
That's
great.
Great.
He's aware of the needs for minutes. For young players, this is the most important thing. For for the 30 years olds, that's not the most important thing because they've been through it. Sometimes it's even better for them not to play too many games because they kind of they don't make their bodies even more tired. But for the young players like Nico, I think the key is for them to play. He trains hard. He came very fit from the preseason and done through the preseason again. It's just the depth, But then again, we have a US Open Cup, Leagues Cup, and hopefully, touch wood, we won't have many injuries. So, I must say our performance, the medical department done a great job this year. So far, again, I don't want to jinx it, but we brought John Curry from Celtic Football Club, a phenomenal person and also the expert. I think he'll help us being even better in that field. So I think it's very positive, everything.
All right, David, I think we have some more questions if you want to.
Yeah. So this one came from our friend Michael, and so he says Charlotte has brought in players from a multitude of leagues for our various coaches. So, what key qualities or data points do you prioritize when you're scouting players that fit our playing style?
First of all, we try to look at Dean's style. Obviously, we look at the league, the requirements. It's very important. This league is very physical, so. If I want to be simple, if you don't have legs, you struggle in these leagues. You have to be a Messi. I mean, Messi has the legs, but that's not the main focus of his of football. His main focus is this kind of incredible ability that he has. So we have a data analytics department that is 4 people strong, and I think one of the best in the league. They go through every single player via data points. We also have a scouting department. We have video scouting, live scouting. We make a lot of visits around the world to see the players. So it's a combination. It's really a combination. We usually wait for the data to flag the player to us that actually fits the style and fits the physicality. Then once we see that, then we go through the video and the live scouting. So I'm not saying that you're always right, but I think we're trying to minimize mistakes as much as we can.
Yeah, let me ask you this: has your, I guess, perspective changed when you first got here? When you're identifying, we'll use the midfield for example. There's a big difference between a number 10, a 6, and an 8. Has your thought changed a little bit based on your time in the league about who you identify more so around that like 6 and 8?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all up to the coaches whether they want to play with 2 6s, 2 8s, 1 6, 1 8, 1 10. I think everybody who comes from abroad, from Europe or wherever else you're coming into this league and being a GM or sporting director would underestimate the league. I guarantee you. I did.
Yeah, that seems like the thing. Yeah.
And if they say that they didn't, they might not be honest with you guys. So I underestimated the league, and I also backed up potentially too much in some cases my previous coaches. You have to have a very fine balance how much you're backing the coach, how much you deciding on your own, and if you're deciding too much on your own, then you the potential clash of rating and excused by the coach saying, well, these are not my players. Well, of course we're losing the games. But then if you're giving too much, then you might actually making a mistake if the coach is actually not doing the day job properly. So it's a very fine balance that the front office needs to constantly maintain in order to kind of bring the best possible the player. It really does help when you have a really good relationship with the coaches. Then you can discuss in detail, and they are supportive. And especially when you have someone who actually understands giving time, experienced coach like Dean, who has coached on all the levels in England, whether it's a League One or Championship or Premier League. So he's seen the development players, he's seen the superstars. He coached the Jack Grealish, but he coached also some players that nobody ever heard of.
For someone that's listening and maybe, kind of new to soccer or maybe new to Charlotte FC fandom, we've talked about Dean Smith's playing style. What would you say is his playing style? What is his preference of what he likes to do?
I think to summarize, he always focusing on not conceding the goal, and then trying to hurt the opposition with the counter-attacking.
Yeah.
So he's a very well organized coach who likes to organize the team very well. That every player has a role and every player knows the role very well.
Yeah.
There are no mistakes, and it's not. I'm not surprised whatsoever that after the San Jose game where we won 4-1, he was not happy, and he walked into the changing room and he said to the players, "We have a day off tomorrow. See you Monday. Congratulations for the win, but this team can play much better than we played today."
That's crazy to think about, but I love that very much.
I think he said after the press conference that he actually thought we played better against Cincinnati than we did against San Jose. Even though the score says otherwise, right? But
he's not happy about the two chances, potentially even more the second chance of Chicho, the header, because for him that's not acceptable. The first, what is not acceptable, the cross that we did not even manage to stop. I think he was, I don't know who was it. I think Kervin. He didn't manage to get on at the end of that cross and stop the cross. Yeah. And then the Chicho totally free like a ghost, in the middle of the where the penalty ball he's heading the ball. I mean, him coming from England as a coach from England, that is a cardinal sin, I think.
Yeah.
so yeah, he was not happy about these couple of chances, and rightly so. So it's I think we played very well in transition. I think Pep was phenomenal, and Pep was exactly the Pep that we know. Yeah. I think we took our chances very well. I think we could score another 3, but we allowed them the chance to score 2 or 3.
Yeah. And I feel like, we've changed our philosophy a little bit. We had 2 coaches that tended to, especially the one before Dean, like to have possession, and I always like to dick around with the ball in the back, and not really do much with it, just float around to the wings and then reverse it. But it seems like it's a new style. We can either go over the top, big to pat, or play out of the back, but it seems like very much that counterattack, quick turn and go. So we may not have as much possession, but have you seen like that fundamental shift, not just with the coach, but with the players that have been here before?
Well, we had a 72% possession against Inter Miami.
That's true. Yeah.
Which is the best possession team in the league.
Yeah.
And probably the top 10 in the world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think what he wants a quick transition and quick attack. But if he can't do it, he doesn't like players forcing it, and he likes us to control the ball. When he says control the ball, being patient. Mm-hmm. So, we have a young players at the back, except team. I wouldn't call him necessarily young, but like Malanda and Privet are young, and they sometimes like to kind of change the narrative of the game too quick. And he was like, okay, hold on a second, wait, and if they press, just wait, just make space, make the right space, and once you have a space, then put the ball through, and then that's it. We off. So I think there's still work to do, and this is what he was referring after the San Jose game.
Interesting.
I think we have done better, but clearly the style of play is being more defined. I think we also that is always defined a little bit with the players you have. Now we have a Pep Biel that is the player that we didn't have before in the middle. Mm-hmm. So now we can control the ball a little bit more. We have a Zaha who, if you give the ball, chances are that he's not going to lose it. I mean, he was a little tired towards the end of the last game, and he lost a couple of balls. But generally, Zaha doesn't lose the balls. He's either some change that he creates, or it's a foul.
Right, that's true. All right, David, what else we got?
Yeah, so let's see here. So we got one from Will. So he says, we saw last summer and this winter pretty quick pivots when, for certain reasons, acquisitions weren't going to work out in certain ways. So he kind of mentioned like Royce and Stengs and Pep Biel and Zaha, etc. So are you working these angles all at the same time, or do you work with one at a time? And then what's your move? And do you move on if it's not going to work from that angle?
No, it's always all the angles all the time.
Yeah, I think there's sometimes a misconception that you're working on, for example, the Miguel Almiron deal, and you're only working with him. You're not focused on anything else. You're only working with this, and that doesn't come about. And so then you switch over here. But in reality, you got you and Bobby, who also made a cameo in the documentary.
Well, they have to put him in because he's the best looking, and like
he's the face. He's the face of the.
Well, you said
Bobby's great.
Don't tell Bobby that. He already has a big head.
Smart and done great with us, and he's someone that I very very closely with. So Bobby is asset to CLTFC, no doubt.
But going back to the question, I think a lot of people really don't know because they're maybe they're new to soccer or they just don't know how the behind the scenes work. But like any given time, you're working on multiple positions all at once. Like, how many times a day do you have to charge your phone? I guess is a better question.
I have 2 phones and I charge them in office. So yeah,
you have 2 phones. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I have 2 phones. In a transfer window, it was interesting. Transfer windows are always interesting, especially towards the end, because incredible opportunities arise last couple of days. Last year I was the last 7 days in London, and this year will be probably in London because this is where you are in the middle of everything happening. The deals fell through overnight. In 1 hour, you can lose 2 deals and get 2 more new exciting players that are coming through that you thought you have no chance to have them. The loans that are happening in the last 48 hours are basically, if you 4 weeks earlier ask the club, they'll tell you, don't call us ever again. Shame on you. And then 4 weeks later, they're calling you and saying, "Well, actually, you know what? And so you have to be alert. You have to be you have to know how to operate on that market. You have to be kind of knowledgeable enough. You have to have connections that are basically tell you the right information all the time. Mistakes can happen very easily. Overpaying can easily happen. The club's always trying to use. You use you as a kind of, oh, right, you're Major League Soccer, you guys have money, your owner is a billionaire. It doesn't work like that. There is a price of the player, and we pride ourselves as a club that we're not afraid to move away from the player if it doesn't work out for whatever reason. If the salary demands are stupid, we move on. If the other club asking the stupid amount of money, we move on. And those kind of things. But this is why you have at every given day, if you need if you look at the left back, we brought 1, but we had five options, and we made 3 offers. So this is the game, and for me and for us, for front office, and it doesn't stop with the end of the window. Because you immediately start looking. So we're looking at now the summer window, but we're also looking at the next January window because we don't know what's going on. Do we potentially get a lot of noise about changing the calendar? So what do we do in that case? How do we do? What kind of league then would be and things like that? So it's of course the every week is a different game, and you win, you're happy. You lose, you're not happy. But on the side, as a side business, our main business is always to look at the roster and make sure that is always the best or bring the best possible players to kind of allow the dean and the team to kind of have a best chance to win.
Yeah. I feel like I need to sit down with you for like 5 hours and pick your brain for when you were an agent. But anyway, like when do deals mostly fall through? Now, I think some people may not know that you usually have a fee that you're paying the team, but you also have to negotiate the salary where do deals typically fall apart? Is it the fee or is it the salary and specifics there?
You forgot some very important fee, agent fee.
Oh yes, yeah. So that's the other thing too. And let me ask you this too, because you've been on that side. Do you sandbag teams when they're calling about your player and you know that they might actually really be interested in this team, but you have other offers? Do you kind of like just like, oh, he might be interested? I don't know, maybe not. Call back later. Do you like? How does that work?
I never say I'm interested. This is how it works. You never say you're interested. The number one thing, when I'm the most interested, then I never call, because then I get scouts to call. Because when the scouts call, then that's not the most kind of, when I call, that means that we are really interested.
Okay.
When I start negotiating. So sometimes we just put the scouts into the conversation. Let them talk, because scouts can talk to 17 players, 17 clubs, and then we just jump at the end when we kind of prepare the whole ground.
Should have been an agent. Should have been an agent.
It's a little bit of art, really. Negotiations is an art. You need to have information. The right information makes you easier to negotiate the price you want. You need to have the price that you are happy to pay, and the price that the maximum and the minimum, and then you try to find yourself in the middle. And I don't necessarily believe in win-win, but I believe in win for us, and that the other club gets something out of it, because otherwise they wouldn't sell the player or buy the player. It's complex, but again, I think the most important thing, the network you have, the connections and information. Once you have these three, it's a little bit easier too.
All right, I'll schedule our 5-hour meeting for all the other details later.
Yeah. we always joke around that Swift wants to be an agent. Awesome here. So I've got this is a fun one. So this is from a good friend of our show, Vaughn, who's been on before. But he wants to know, Zoran, so if you were commissioner of MLS for a day, what would be the first rule change that you would implement? Is it something such as like shifting transfer windows, increasing salary cap, eliminating player designations like DPs or U22s? What would you do if you were the commissioner for a day?
I don't think I will ever be commissioner for a day or for an hour. I think Commissioner Garber has done a good job. He's been there for a long time. He saw the transformation of the league from a very small, obscure league into one of the most amazing leagues in the world, that people are looking at MLS and trying to kind of copy some of the stuff that we're doing. So I think the league is doing a lot of good things. Personally, if you're asking me for one rule that I would try to scrap, it would be categorization of the players. I would not have a categorization. The categorization means nothing. In my opinion, it's obstructing us to bring a relevant players into the team, because we can't fit him into that categorization. So that also stopping us to bring some talents, some interesting players, some free agents, some all kind of things. So in ideal world, I would still have a salary cap. I would still have a lot of rules that are existing right now, but categorization, I would try to kind of change it.
Yeah, let me ask you this: Do you like some of these kind of weird roster rules, because it is unlike any other league? It's very competitive from top to bottom. Like, you really don't know who's going to win. Do you like that, or do you prefer like?
How do you mean you don't know who's going to win?
I mean, besides us, I mean, we're always. But like, you look at the EPL. Like, there's
to your podcast.
This is the last time. This is it. But like, do you like some of these rules, because the league is very competitive? It's built for parity. Parity. So as opposed to like other leagues, like the same 2 or 3 teams win it every single year.
Yeah, it's in a theory, it's built for parity. I think. I don't know if there is a real parity when you have clubs that have a multi-ownership clubs behind them, that you have cities that are the most popular and most amazing cities in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's parity is an interesting concept. I'm not against it. I think the league is trying to kind of maintain parity, and it's true in a 30 clubs league right now, you're really not sure who's going to win, because at least, in my opinion, 6 to 8 clubs have a chance.
Right. Yeah.
So that's way bigger odd than Premier League or Italy. But it's not that 30 clubs have a chance. If you look
Right.
now,
That's
30 clubs, would you think that every 30 club will have a chance
No.
to win MLS Cup?
No.
Probably not. Yeah.
No.
So, yeah, there you go. So I think there are more clubs having a chance to win. And what is also interesting, the club that win not necessarily have a best position to win next year, because they pay the bonuses that go into salary cap, they do this and that. And in case of Galaxy this year, they had to change the roster dramatically because of the limitations and the rules and roster and budget rules.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think there are a lot of very interesting, very smart rules in the league that I like, and I think that many countries, and for some I know for sure, are looking at MLS and eyeing MLS rules and regulations and saying, okay, how can we implement some? Is there any way that we can push through some of the rules there? And even the salary cap, I'm not against the salary cap. I would like to see bigger salary cap, increase the salary cap that would bring better players, better product on the field, more excitement within the fans. But I don't think I would scrap the salary cap, and scrapping the salary cap can actually lead to overspending, not unnecessary overspending by some clubs,
So I got one more follow up on that one for you. So I don't. Sorry, Swift. So
No, I got one more question, but I could wait to the end. Yeah.
So Vaughn had a follow up on this one, just to kind of a same scenario, but he worded this as iron sharpens iron a little bit. So among your fellow MLS sporting directors or general managers, who do you view as your greatest adversary across the league? So is there a certain reason why, and how so?
I don't. None of them is adversary. They're adversaries of the moment when we're doing some deal, and
Sure.
there was well documented in a serious adversary, Galaxy general manager, but he's actually very nice person, and he's a super smart guy, and we get on well. So it's just a moment of when we trying to win for our own respective clubs that we not necessarily like each other, but this is nothing personal. This is just a fight to kind of get the best for your club.
One last question for me. You and I we've talked on the show, we've talked off the show, and we always bring up Seattle as kind of maybe like a model to emulate as building this franchise. Going into this season, do you think we're in line with that now? How do you feel about this franchise in general? Do you like the progression? Where are some areas that you want to keep improving on? How do you feel going? We're a couple games into this season. How are you feeling right now?
Well, look, Seattle for me is still one of the models that I really like, how the club was built and how it's maintained to be a powerhouse of the Major League Soccer and the quintessentially perennial playoff team that, nobody really asked the question whether they're going to be in playoff. Even now that they're going through the bit of a patch period, they have a few injuries, and playing the Champions League is not easy. The MLS rosters are not built for the playing on a multiple fronts, and you have a Leagues Cup, US Open Cup, Champions League, and I think they don't play US Open Cup if they're playing Champions League, but it's still 3 competitions, and really the rosters are still the 20 senior roster slots. So you sometimes play 17, 18 years old. Is he good? Yeah, but not necessarily against a Mexican team that has a 40 players on a roster, and if you have a few injuries, then you might struggle. So I think Seattle is one of the really good examples. I think personally that we coming close to that level where they are. So we have a couple of US national players. We have domestic players. We have players that have been in the league for a while now. We have an MLS experience. We have a kind of a toughness in the team that can go in Seattle and pick up the point even if you don't play well. Usually these are the traits of the good team. When they don't play well and get something out of it, because we had the situations in year 1 and 2 when we played well and better, and we got nothing. I can name dozen of games.
Yeah.
When we had the chances after chances after chances and we lose 1-0.
Yep.
I don't think this team will happen that easily with this team.
Yeah, we're tough to beat, definitely defensively. And one of the things too, when I was looking up the Tim Ream stat, and I was like, oh, that's pretty impressive. I was actually shocked at how many goals we actually score, because I think there's maybe a misconception like, oh, we don't create a lot of chances, but our goal differential is phenomenal since that, Tim Ream moved to left back, but we're scoring a lot of goals. I mean, it helps when you have a 4-1 victory, but besides even that game, we're actually scoring a lot of goals.
I think we were not prolific, but like some others, and we didn't have a number 9 who will score 20 goals. Yeah. If you had a number 9 that scores 20 goals, then nobody will talk about us not scoring goals. But then don't forget, we had a number 9 that was young and never played in MLS before, and he scored 10 goals. And then Karol Swiderski last year played the 13 games, and I think he scored 7 goals and 2 assists. So if he, looking at that, playing with us in our system, in this system, if Karol played the whole season, 34 games, would he score 16, 15 goals and 7, 8 assists? Maybe.
Yeah.
So suddenly that will put him among the top 10 in MLS. Yeah. So I don't think we didn't have this kind of, maybe looking on an eye on a just simply looking on a numbers and everything. It's like looking, the guys like Lucho scores 20 goals and assists, but that's Lucho. Mm-hmm. He will always score 20 goals and assists. Yeah. But also it comes out of a little bit of selfishness, because the whole team has to be evolved around those kind of players.
Right. Yeah, I think our team, way it seems like right now, and maybe Pat or whoever's going to be playing up top can change that, but I think it really is going to be goal by committee with this team. Like, everybody's going to be scoring. I don't think one person is just going to run out ahead, and I'm perfectly fine with that, because to me that's even harder to defend when you don't have that one person that's drawing all that attention. Zaha is going to be a good bit of that, of course, but I like that the goals are being spread around on the team, and it's not just one person doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think our strikers, forwards, they never play together. If you look at the Pep Biel, Abada Vargas, Zaha, Pat Agyemang, they didn't have many games together. Yeah. So if you look at the Seattle Sounders strikers, the Morris and the Roldan and those kind of guys, they know each other for much longer. Yeah. So I honestly think, barring some injuries, that if he stay as we are now, that will be a more formidable force towards the last 15 games of the season.
I can't wait. That's all the questions I got, David.
Yeah, Zoran, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening coming on our show. Yeah. It's always a blessing to have you on here and get your perspective on it. So we really appreciate it.
No, it's nice. It's always a pleasure to come and spend some time with you guys, and the questions are always good, and you always provoke me to say more than I should, and well done for that.